talk about?
You and your mama.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Afar.
Whatever suits your fancy.
We may have a more momentary squeal here. There we go. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching to this recording. If you're watching it later, if it takes us a few minutes to get rolling, I'll give you the minute mark where we're going to be starting the actual discussion. I only have one page to show you, and we have kind of an unusual subject tonight, although we broached it before. We're going to be, the title tonight is No One's Immune, Recognizing Cult-like Control and Leaving and Recovering when it comes to churches and other organizations. And I think we're all in various stages of recovery from the bubble. At least we are in my neck of the woods. So thanks for being here, and we will be starting with you shortly with the discussion. And you can see we have here Patricia, who just sang in soprano, and Casey is entering now, and this is my brother Mike.
Hey, everybody.
From somewhere over near Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
And in the background of my image, you can see the Jezreel Valley. That picture was taken within feet of the spot where Jezebel died.
Oh.
And the dogs licked her bones.
Oh.
I was looking for those dogs. I never found them.
I wish I could find them. Throw her down. Throw her down to dogs. I think we lost Kia.
Uh-oh.
I'm admitting all.
Oh, she's
I see her now.
Yeah, me too.
So we have Heather in, we have Dale. At least they seem to be coming in.
Yeah.
Gino.
There's Jean too.
Greetings.
Hello.
Yeah, so we have 7 right now, if I'm counting correctly. We've got Dale, Michael, Jean, Heather, Kia, Patricia,
Hello.
and me. And Gino, have you gotten a haircut since the last time I saw you? You're muted, bro.
No, I took a walk and wore a hat.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
have
that's just as good.
walking hat hair.
This has a different style tonight. I love it. Mix it up, Gene.
All right. Good group, good group, good group.
Oh,
Glad
Lord.
that you all are here. We're going to be going back to the cult thing because it just keeps coming up. And, you know, I don't like talking about cults because I'm obsessing on, you know, Jonestown, where people committed suicide or were murdered, or David Koresh and the Branch Davidians and all the other weird cults that we have out there. And I heard about one recently where, I wish I could remember this woman's name, but she started an online cult on YouTube where she believed that there were lizard people and they were taking over, they were from outer space and they were taking over the planet. And this young couple both believed in her. But things started going sour, and the cult leader was jealous of the girl and started calling her a lizard person. And so it ended up in a sort of somebody shooting somebody in the head.
Oh, mine.
So, which I don't know what that I don't know, man. I mean, there are a lot of things to die for, but fake lizard people is not one of them. And a lying YouTube prophet is not another one. But I think there are things that we've been through that we're still trying to change our thinking. We're still trying to change how our brains are wired around, you know, how do you feel about the church? When you know, like if you had a bad experience in church and someone says church, you're not automatically going to realize that, okay, hey, I've found that church is something different here than it was where I was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If someone says Jesus, someone may have crammed Jesus down your throat and used Jesus to control you for 30 years. And then you look in the Bible and find that Jesus is not who they said he was, but your brain is still trying to rewire because you have these gut level emotional negative responses, how do you rewire and get over that? So also, I was hoping tonight that when we, by looking at this list, we can figure out, maybe you can look at the list and make your own checklist of how many of these things you experience in churches or other organizations in your life. So I'm going to screen share if you all are ready. Dadgummit, Dale, there you are with those camels again. You know, listen to me. Humpty Dumpty has the word hump in it. Camel does not have the word hump in it, and yet you continue to discriminate. You're an eggist.
One hump or two.
And the hunchback of Notre Dame, there's so many things that you are leaving out that just makes me so sad.
How many of the other themes relate to Hump Day?
Do you want
Humpty
them to?
Dumpty.
No,
Why not?
Not Hump Day.
So you're a Humpty literalist, is what you are. It has to be exactly Hump Day. It can't be Humpty. All right, here comes my screen share. You guys. All right, here's my little chart that I made, and you know, you don't need to know who any of those things are across the top there. It was just 10 different resources that I read online. I went through all of the elements of what they thought would constitute cult-like behavior. And then I put an X next to the ones that, which ones said it, right? So you can see some variation, but obviously some similarities too. I just want to kind of let you check and see, I don't know, maybe they left something out, but maybe just check and see what you've been through. Quite a number of these people or organizations focused on the charismatic authoritarian leader. And usually that leader makes all the decisions, and that leader is very good at getting people to admire and be loyal to him or her, and they make all the rules. It's my way or the highway. Sound like any pastors you know, or I don't know, I'm just wondering. Also, the leader is not accountable to anybody. It's not like Gene or Dale or I or anybody else who is a pastor in the United Methodist Church. We're accountable to a structure. We're accountable to a committee in our local churches. We're accountable to a district superintendent and a bishop and a cabinet and an entire denomination, but not cult leaders. And also, whatever rules they establish don't apply to them. You know, they can break the rules, but they're the only ones. So they're exempt from the rules, and they are not accountable, which makes them free to use people in whatever way they want to, which is the whole point of the cult. Is the narcissistic or psychopathic leader gets his or her needs met.
Yeah.
And you are a means, you are a tool. You're not a person. You're a means or a tool to me getting what I want. Yeah. The third one is they tend to, here comes Gloria. They tend to add additional revelations beyond the Bible. And sometimes the way they do that is they'll say that now there are so many false translations and it's gone through so many years of corruption. The text is so corrupted, and the Lord is speaking to me, and I'm telling you this is what it says, or I'm telling you here's a new revelation from God, or I'm getting a new revelation, or I'm waiting on a new revelation, and I'm fasting and I'm praying. It's that revelation game where they come up with some sort of new angle that keeps people on the edge of their seat and controls them. That's kind of an interesting, isn't it? That's an interesting one, isn't it, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want comments, or you want to wait till the end?
Oh, sure. Comments are fine.
So are you saying then that persons do not get revelation from God right
No,
now? Okay,
I'm saying that they pretend to in order to control people
okay.
and to dismiss the Bible. Because when they contradict the Bible, they have to reason for contradicting the Bible. And the reason usually is that, oh, well, that translation's corrupt and the Lord spoke directly to me. So this is nefarious. This is
Yeah.
not God speaking to me, getting ready for my sermon and helping me prepare by inspiration. This is,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, this is something entirely different. Fierce loyalty to the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And that's reinforced by the leader by rewarding the people who are most fiercely loyal. So he's sort of got his SS Gestapo around him
Yeah.
or her. Okay. There is a preoccupation with recruiting. You got to get more people. You got to get more people. And one of the means that they use that only one of the studies mentioned, but I think is important, is love bombing recruits. You just smother them with love and you just build them up with compliments and give them all kinds of confidence and you belong, you're one of us. I could just feel it. The Lord told me you're one of us. You're important. The Lord, that kind of thing. Love bombing.
You know, it's it, Bert.
Yeah.
Isn't that like a pedophile grooming somebody?
This is grooming. This is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I watched a documentary one time on those guys. They go over to other countries in Indonesia where the laws are relaxed and they can get away with it. And they will groom sometimes a family, the whole family, groom them as a family friend for 2 years before they actually begin getting what they want, which is, well, you know what pedophiles want. So they'll groom a family for a long time. They're very patient, and I'm not sure about cult leaders. I think they move pretty quickly, but it's the same thing. It's grooming. That's excellent point.
I just got a shiver thinking about it. Sorry.
Yeah. They are, of course, preoccupied with money. I don't know that they have 800 numbers, but they are using the internet more and more. There are more cults on YouTube now promoting themselves than ever. And then the very general words indoctrination and brainwashing that, I think, those words were used in some of these articles, but clearly, well, that's what's going on throughout. That you're erasing who the person was and cutting off their ties in order to get them to be loyal and buy into a worldview and into a society that is perfect and is chosen of God and that has a mission to save the world. And time is short, but we have the real love. We have the real community. We have the real revelation. We have God. We have the truth. We have God's Messiah. Usually the authoritarian leader is also seen as a kind of messianic figure, if not Jesus, a reincarnation of Jesus himself, right?
And Bert, wouldn't that include, like with the indoctrination, the cult or individual's interpretation of scripture?
Teaching. Yeah, and they have a lot of teaching. They teach and teach and teach and teach. Well, in between working them to death, they teach and teach and teach. Yeah, for sure. I'm just going to keep going. Cult generated propaganda. So they, in addition to trying to keep the group members from seeing outside world stuff, which we'll get to in a second, they create their own propaganda, a YouTube channel, pamphlets, flyers, and things that they say to the group to create a group identity that reinforces the brainwashing. And another one that was only mentioned by one of these sources is the leader sets up competition. So whoever, he says, we're all united, we're all one, everyone's equal here, no one's special. We're an egalitarian society, but whoever gets the most recruits this month,
Yeah. You get to sit in the front seat.
Yeah, you get to sit in the front seat.
Mhm.
Rules, it's very rules oriented. It's legalism at its worst, and grace is not a part of the picture in most of these cults.
Yeah.
There is no grace. You're either obeying the rules or you're not. And if you're
Mhm.
not, you're going to be chastised, maybe humiliated, and perhaps even punished. And if you leave, they may stalk you, or
Mhm.
vandalize your car or whatever,
Mhm.
because they're on the side of God and you're now on the side of evil, and it's okay to do bad things to you.
Sounds almost like some relationships too, where control is leading, where one party feels you can't go anywhere unless I know. Tell me what time you reached home. I
Yeah,
need to
it
check
is.
you when you get back.
Yeah.
And
I
just
wonder-
this tab.
Yeah,
these
what is the
close
connection
tabs.
between this and a controlling jerk,
Sounds very similar to me.
or a stalker?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very
they're on you
similar.
every move, and they feel like if that you're not in their presence, they're gonna lose control because someone else is gonna get
Right.
to you.
And there have been so many women in the churches that I've served over the years who will be wined and dined and treated like a queen. And the minute that the ceremony is over, I want to know where you are. This is what you're going to do.
Yeah,
And then they start punching them in the face.
yeah.
Every breath you take.
I'll be wise.
Yeah. Which is what that song is about, by the way.
Yeah, that song is about obsession and
Mm.
stalking.
Yeah.
And no one knew that at the time, apparently, because it went to #1 for 1 billion weeks.
There's so many movies out, to that also.
It's
like
a theme in
obsession.
movies, isn't
Yes,
it?
the one
How
with
are you ever
Beyonce,
going to get away from this guy who's
Yep.
stalking you?
Enough with
He
Jennifer
seems so
Lopez.
wonderful at first.
Mhm,
It's actually a genre.
mhm.
How does this get away from this horrible man?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Clarice.
Yeah. No, not that. No. No.
I'm
Gina.
having an old friend for dinner.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Oh Lord, y'all watch
All
too
right.
much TV.
Okay. All right. Where did I get to? Legalism. Okay. The next one is opposing critical thinking, control by punishing dissent and doubt. I like this one. It was only mentioned by one particular author, but emotional roller coaster. So if you build someone up, you build them up maybe even higher than they deserve. You're wonderful. That went great. You're excellent, and everybody's applauding and everybody's loving on you and kissing you. And then when you do something wrong, you get a disproportionate amount of hate and punishment and humiliation.
Mhm.
So you're constantly on an emotional roller coaster, which keeps you off balance,
Yeah.
which makes you controllable.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
They also use things like sleep deprivation, which also throws you off balance, or not letting you eat, forced fasting. There's all kinds of things that cults do to break you down. It's about breaking you. Where did we get to? Oh yeah, emotional control or banning. There are some emotions are rewarded and some emotions are disallowed. Like, some are considered positive and some are considered like being happy. Yeah.
Mhm.
But being angry, no.
God doesn't like angry.
No, you can't be angry. We'll punish you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And the fear of leaving or being expelled is ramped up
Mhm.
because they tell you all the time the bad things that happen to people who left,
Mhm.
or and then they even make it apocalyptic, or eschatological. If you leave, you automatically are going to hell.
You know what, too? I'm just reminded of this documentary was on a few months ago. I don't know if any of you've seen it. I've seen it with what's her name with the guy. It was very cult-like, and he just manipulated the women, and they gave so much money and all their time, and they were training other people. It came almost like a business venture, and they were training other people. What's the name of that?
There's a wonderful movie called Marcy Mary.
Marcy May, yeah,
Marcy May, Mary. It's like 3 or 4 M names. And the movie came out probably 8 years ago now.
yeah,
But it's about a woman surviving a cult.
yeah, I remember,
It's amazing.
yeah.
Amazing film. Loved
Yeah.
every minute of it.
It is really good. That's
Marcy
not the one I was
May.
talking about, but yeah, that's another one.
Something Marcy May.
Yeah.
Anyway, please watch that. You will like it very much. And you'll feel so sad for her, and you'll see how hard it is for her to even begin to overcome her feelings, because they're so shut down. She's so shut down internally that she's operating out like a robot. And
Mary, Marcy May, Marine.
yeah, Mary Marcy May Marie. That's it. Definitely should see that. Threat of satanic attack and hell for disobedience or for leaving. Using guilt and shame to control people. This one was interesting, and 4 of them mentioned it. Using mind-numbing hypnotic practices that might involve hours of chanting, scripture, or speaking in tongues, or singing, or listening to the same person over and over again, say words over and over again, and it's sort of a monotone, and you just have to sit there for hours while this is going on. You have to have permission for decision making. Like, you can't just say, well, I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go to the store, or I want to date this person, or I'm going to ask them out. You have to find out from the leader or one of the leaders whether you can get permission to do anything. You can't think for yourself or decide for yourself anymore.
Is that God's will for you?
Is that God? Yeah, that's a good one. Are you sure that's God's will for you?
That's not God's will. God didn't tell me that.
God didn't tell you that.
No.
I know God didn't tell you that. Lord told me God didn't tell you that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So, where did we get to? Identity loss. Okay. So once you're broken down, I mean, the idea is for them to switch you into a pseudo-personality. So if you look at those Jonestown videos of all the happy people right before they all killed themselves, they're happy. They're saying everything wonderful about this place. The children are skipping and playing, and the adults are waving palm branches, and they're just thrilled. They're putting on a show. They've become a pseudo-personality because they've lost their identity. They've been broken. Not good.
no.
And once you start acting like that, you've got a long road to recovery, because you've got to get rid of, kill, change, or make a deal with the pseudo-personality to let it go, and then re-find yourself again. It's almost like having a stroke or something and having to learn to walk or talk again. It's so debilitating that you have to start over.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the movie Split, the one who had all those personalities.
Yes.
And one was a child.
He went through such abuse.
One was a woman. Yeah. And one was the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and elitism, that we're the true church here in Nassau. We're the true church. We're the only real one. Everybody else is just pretending, and they haven't got the truth.
Yeah.
We've got the truth. And if you want to have the truth, you need to leave that godforsaken
my
place you're going to over there at the Episcopal and the Methodist and the Catholic, because that's all heresy. You need to come over here and meet the Lord. The real Lord's over here.
I think it's so familiar.
Is that a little familiar? Okay. Also,
Yeah, it's really familiar to me.
yeah. And also, we're on a special mission that God has given our leader special insight and has told us what our role is in the world. This is what this is why we're here. We're going to save something or somebody. Isolation. And this one's really important. In fact, it got like 9 out of 10 of these mentioned it. I mean, if you're going to con someone, everybody knows that the key is isolating that person.
Yeah.
Not letting them off the hook and not letting them reach out to anyone else, and just keeping them isolated. So the idea is, one of the things that cults do is they'll even give you a new name.
Mm.
they'll call you by something other than your real name.
Mhm.
So you're being initiated into the cult by getting a new name. They also will not let you contact your family. They'll cut off ties because they'll convince you that your family was a negative influence and they didn't really love you, but we do.
Your name shall no longer be George.
Oh, please. And and cut off or outside ties also means, movie. You can't go to the movies. You can't wear, you can't wear modern fashions.
Mhm.
You can't wear makeup. You can't see certain TV
You're
shows.
revealing too much.
Yeah, you can't use, you can't watch, you can't listen to what's on the radio or whatever. There's an us and them mentality, and that us and them mentality can become pretty vicious. It's not just that, we're different, we're special, and out there is wrong, but out there is dangerous, and then it becomes out there is evil, and then sometimes cults go into attacking the evil, and they will actually go on missions. Like Manson sent his little zombies out to kill a family and kill some people in Hollywood, and they did. They were willing to follow the Messiah's
Mhm.
instructions. And then apocalyptic and millennialist theology is usually associated with these groups, meaning that the end is nigh. And the millennialist thing is that Jesus is coming soon. They believe in 1,000-year reign of Christ, but there's going to be 7 years of tribulation. It's all that 19th century baloney that has sort of poisoned the well of Christianity now for a couple of centuries. They're usually in that group.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, let's finish because I have some.
Okay, so there's also there's excessive time and energy required for you to work for the cult. You have to be there every day. You have to work all day long. And on top of that, you have all the worship services and all the teachings and all the prayers. It's an exhausting, and the tireder they make you, the more they can control you and keep you broken down. So you're working and working and working and working all the time for the Lord.
Mhm.
End justifies the means, and that was brought up quite a bit. Is that you might find yourself doing things that you would normally have thought in your previous life to be unethical or immoral, but doing it in the name of the leader who's instructing you to do it, you may find yourself doing things you wouldn't have normally done.
No, it makes sense.
And then at the bottom, of course, is the sexual and economic exploitation that goes along with cults. How many of the cult leaders do we actually find out later had 28 children with, 14 different women
Mhm.
in the cult? Because, he's God. And the
Mhm.
Lord told me that,
You're my seventh wife.
yeah, that you're to make yourself available to me and to your husband.
Mhm.
Polygamy is biblical.
Yeah, well, there is some.
Saying.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know whether to take this little thing down or not, but I can't see y'all. All I see is the person who's talking. Can I take this down, or for now, or do we need to bring it back up for reference? We can bring it back up, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
On Facebook,
So I'm
maybe.
going to stop the I'm going to stop the thing and go back to here. Okay, can you see sort of everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, so welcome. I see Kia, Gloria, Dale, Gino. I see Heather and Mike and Patricia. Welcome to all of y'all. And we are live also on the Owl Rock group on Facebook. I don't know how many of you all have had how much experience with any cult-like organizations, but was anything ringing a bell that you would be willing to share that you think might be helpful?
I can definitely respond to that. So my question is, first, before I get into that, like, how many of on that list will you say meets the criteria to become a cult? Because say if you've experienced one or perhaps two, maybe three, does it necessarily have to be a cult, or these are just some symptoms of what cults might have? Because I identified with several of those.
How many?
I didn't count, but I chuckled.
10?
I cut. No, probably not that many. Well, but
8?
maybe at least five. And so when you talked, so I chuckled most times when it registered, when it resonated with, I identified with
Right.
it. And so like with the millennium and all, went to Revelation seminars. I mean, that was our life. We talked about, the 7 years and all of it. I mean, no one almost
Prophecy,
prophecy
rapture,
by heart.
tribulation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Big time. And there were a few others there, but like in the DSM-5, the manual for mental health disorders, you have to meet 6 of the 8 criteria to be diagnosed as someone,
True.
having an anxiety disorder or a depression disorder or schizophrenic. I'm curious, and I don't know if we can put a number on it, but I want to throw it out because we might have experienced one or more of those. And it doesn't mean that you were in a cult if you have experienced or might still be a part of one of those or two or whatever. I don't know. So I'm just curious about how do y'all feel about the number of those on the list?
That's a good question.
Ironically, I was thinking on the same thing, because what happened when you got to the millennium and the what is it,
Apocalyptic.
Apocalyptic, yeah.
because that's a lot of it's on television if you watch it sometimes on the Christian station, and then they are saying that now the churches now are millennium churches, and I thought about that when I saw it, and it was only in one book.
Yeah.
So therefore, I did think about that. I said, well, that's very active. And I don't know whether it is considered a cult, but it is being taught. Okay, it is being taught now.
For sure.
There's this guy who says, I have a book that I can sell you if you just want to find out what's going to happen in 7 years. And a lot of people go to what is it that people tell you, fortune? Is that what?
Fortune tellers?
A lot of people want to know what their future is. They want,
Like psychics?
Yeah, psychics. You see that, right? Right. And so that's just a comment. It was commenting back on what Patricia said.
Yeah. Yeah, am I wrong to say that there's no hard and fast line between when something is or isn't a cult necessarily sometimes? Sometimes it's overwhelmingly clear that you're in a suicide cult.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you're in a church that has some cult-like behaviors or tendencies maybe, but not a full-blown cult.
Yeah.
But it's using some of the methods, the guilt, maybe the shame, the isolation,
For control.
the control, and the us against them,
Yeah.
and the Lord is coming nigh, and it's a legalistic rather than grace-filled, and you've got to knuckle under, and you better be at church, and we'll call you out about it if you aren't, and all that pressure and shaming and guilt and legalism is cult-like, but that doesn't mean you were in a cult.
But there may be times too, Bert, where you are in a cult and you're not even aware
And
that
you don't
you
know
are, because
Right.
all you're hearing and you've been hearing it from a child. My mother has been here to this church and my grandparents, and now I'm here and my kids are coming here too. And if that's all you know, you're not assuming that, you're not thinking that you are in a cult. If you visit another church, and that's why one of, I think on the list is about keeping you isolated, where you're not going to visit anyone to hear anything else. This is the only truth you're going to hear. And if you
That's how they keep
venture
you
out.
here. That's how they keep you
Yes,
here.
if you
That,
venture
yes.
hear something else or hear the truth somewhere else, or somebody else's truth, because everybody has their own truth. Yeah, that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You know, there are people over the years in my ministry that would exhibit many of these on your list, but yet we're part of the church that I pastored. And even the last congregation, there are members of that church who are specifically in tune with apocalyptic literature and happenings, who authoritarian people, legalistic people. If you ever approach them and said to them, you have cult-like tendencies, they look at you and think you are absolutely crazy, because they would not see what they perceive of themselves as things that would be like a cult, even though
Yeah.
the list that you've given, I think Patricia has kind of indicated this too, the list you've given is some indications of cults out there. And I think there are a lot of people in churches who have some of these characteristics that aren't cult people, but yet have cult characteristics.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean,
How did that I mean, how did they get that? Where
I
you don't
agree
just
with
get that in a bubble. Somebody somehow made a connection with them that stuck, and they felt like they found the truth,
Yep.
and
Well,
they
I-
cling to it.
I'll have to say, and this is not me just patting myself, I would have to say, it didn't come from the pulpit I stood in.
Yeah.
It came from a source beyond me. And usually that source is someone that they resonate with, who perhaps theologically they connect with, and all of a sudden that person becomes like a mentor in their lives. And eventually that mentorship becomes the legalism that they latch onto. So it's beyond the local church. Lots of times, even though they're participating and members of the local church, and they would never say they're a part of a cult, even though I would say that they have characteristics of that cult.
Heard an observation and then a question.
Excuse me?
An observation and then a question to go to Patricia's point. If we look at all those elements and criteria, you may only need one of those if it's off the charts.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If the sexual exploitation, especially of a minor, is off the charts, you don't need the other 10 or 12 things.
Yeah, I
Right.
hear you.
It
Yeah.
may be a little of a lot of things or a lot of a few things.
That's a
Mhm.
good point, Gene. That's
And
an excellent point.
Becky's at the table behind me, lurking. And her question was, how do you deal with folks like the Mormon Church?
Yeah. So, I saw that online a lot. People were talking about, when I was researching, people were evaluating the Mormon Church and the Jehovah's Witnesses and other things. Are these cults? And again, there's a difference between evaluating and judging. And I think that there are good people in those churches. I don't know what to call them. They call themselves churches, I think. At the same time, I've seen some alarming things and read some alarming things that sound cult-like.
Mhm.
And so, I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
they have divisions within just like we do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Gene, I need to hear that.
No, I'm sorry. I say they have divisions within just like Christianity as a whole.
That's true.
But I think Patricia made the point that you're kind of tagging on to, Bert. If you're a third generation Mormon, then you don't know anything different than a third generation Mormon. And you wouldn't, and if I approached somebody and said something about the characteristics, they would say, no, we're a church. My mother and my grandmother, I am just like them. And so, I think Patricia has a real key to understanding Mormonism and others, because if you grew up in the church, you grew up in that culture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's all you know.
Yeah, and if you don't know something else, you don't know it's something else. I mean, if you don't know what's beyond the wall, you have no idea what's inside the door.
And the other piece to that, Dale, is when you start seeking for yourself or getting curious about or inquisitive about, well, I read something and this doesn't make sense for what we're doing. This looks different than what I'm reading over here. And so you can't ask questions anymore. You get cut off. Don't ask those kinds of questions. You just do what I tell you. You know what I mean? It just goes back to the
Patricia
isolation
has
again.
developed a spirit of rebellion.
Yes.
The
Yes,
force is
yes.
strong.
Yes,
We need to pray for
yes.
What did Gene say? Gene just said,
The force is strong with this,
her.
May the force be with you.
and also with you.
But also, you know, if you start opening your mind and asking questions, sometimes the best result is you close the door and move on. You don't stay where you are. I know through my life experiences, I've grown a lot through looking at life beyond my small community. And that's allowed me to grow beyond where I was to who I am, and still not where I need to be by moving that direction. But because of that, I've closed doors behind me. And because of that, there are people who said to me, "You've changed." And the truth is, I have changed,
right.
but not in the sense of rebellion, but in the sense of opening my mind to more of what I see as true.
Yes.
Good point.
But they see it as backsliding, Dale. You know,
Right.
I've experienced the same thing when I felt like I have evolved and changed, just, you know, in terms of my theology and spirituality. You know, the first thing you hear is, well, she's backslidden. What happened to
Mhm.
her? She's just, what happened to
I'm
all,
not
you
even
know?
sure that's an actual word, nor do I know how to spell it, backslidden. But I know that it.
It's usually
people,
backsliding.
You're a backslider?
That's backsliding.
Yes.
You know, why does this remind me of conspiracy theorist people? You know, there's some people who believe that the earth is flat, for example. Let's just use them for example. We already did the lizard people cult, but
Mhm.
there's something parallel here that I can't quite, it's pretty complicated, but I think once you think that you've found a group of people that have shown you a truth that's so shocking and no one else knows it, and suddenly you're on the inside, and suddenly you're the one who is the expert saying, no, you can't prove to me that the earth is round. That's all propaganda from NASA, and they've pulled the wool over the world's eyes, and we need to wake up and realize that our pastor is right, because in the Bible it talks about the dome of the sky and the waters of the skies, and the sky is blue, so that's got to be water, and the sun's not really, you know, 93 million miles away. It's really close, and it's smaller, and we live on a pancake, not a ball. And just like it says in the Bible, this group of people runs, they're sort of like an online cult in a way.
Yeah.
And there's very little you can do in debating with them to change their mind, because they've got an answer or a comeback for everything, and
Because they got roped into it too.
Yeah.
and they need to. It's something about being right. We've got the
Yes.
right perfect pastor. We've
Mhm.
got the right perfect church. We've got the
Mhm.
right perfect leaders. We've got the right perfect beliefs, and we're special and we're unique, and God's called us, and it's not true for anybody else.
And I think too, it can be so convincing, because if you are the prophet and you give me a prophecy and it's true, I can identify with what you say, then
Mhm.
everything else that you say after that is gospel. It's like, oh no, he told me the truth. And it may just be this one incident that he may have guessed, or it could have been on, you know, could have been whatever.
Are we all so
but-
starved for compliments and affirmation? Are we also lonely and needy, that we're vulnerable to a cult grabbing us when they just give us affirmation for things that we want to hear?
You'll be surprised.
Yes.
You'll be surprised.
Can I
That,
say,
yeah.
can I say something?
Yes.
All right.
I think that it's easy to focus on the, you know, groups that are really out there, right?
Mhm.
But as you're looking at that list, you know, I grew up in a very mainstream religion in the middle of our glorious country. And I can tell you that several of those items I could just tick off. So I
Yeah.
think it's easy to focus on those groups that are out there that they're going to make documentaries about. But, you know, everything on that list to me are also markers of an unhealthy, controlling relationship, period.
Yes.
And I think
Any
that-
kind of unhealthy controlling relationship.
Right. And I think
Yes.
that we're all vulnerable to that. And
Yeah.
when it is normalized to any degree,
Mhm.
it's very easy to have it just be part of your life. I mean, I would also add like misogyny on that list,
Yeah.
Yes.
you know? So I just, I don't know.
I
For
mean,
myself,
here's what scares me is that I think that some seminaries are teaching pastors how to do things on that list.
Yeah. Mhm.
Mm.
I
That's
agree
actually
with
part of
that.
the-
I think some of it
part of
also
the
comes
curriculum.
naturally. I mean, I
Yeah.
think some of it, with all due respect, comes naturally to people that are attracted to that profession, that line of work, right?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I loved my pastor growing up dearly until I grew up a little bit and started seeing kind of the reality of his situation. So you know,
Which wasn't good, I presume.
Right.
no, it's just a lot of hubris, a lot of being above, you know, his law was the law,
Mhm.
you know, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know, it takes time and it takes having your eyes opened and being willing to kind of leave
Mhm.
people you love,
Yeah.
to find a different way and find your own path.
Mhm.
That's an
And it
excellent
takes a-
point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's when we start studying the word for ourselves, of when we start trying to venture out and learn for ourselves. And I guess that's one reason I always compliment Bert, because I go to another church, but I always try to participate and learn from others too. So when you do that, you do open your eyes and you do question more.
Mhm.
And so I think you mature, as you say. I like what Heather said, that you learn as you grow. You grow as you
Mhm.
study
Yes.
for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I feel bad when I find people online as I'm getting ready to do these studies. Sometimes I'm looking at reading different papers or looking at different videos, and I run across people fairly frequently who have left Christianity altogether because their impression of Christianity is the bad one that they had in a cult-like environment.
Yeah.
They don't know that there's anything else.
Mhm.
And I feel, you know, I feel like, oh my God, the road to where I am would be really long for someone who's been abused by a pastor in a church like that,
Mhm.
to get not only free from that, but to realize that Jesus and scripture aren't anything like what you were told,
Yeah.
and that there is real hope and life and light and liberty here, and that nobody is trying to control you,
Mhm.
that you're being set free. That's what
Yeah.
Jesus came to help people do, is to set them free. It's not about control, it's about freedom. And when control walks in the room, love leaves, and and freedom leaves, and liberty leaves, and when control walks in the room, all you got is control.
I'm thinking about that song where as you said that, you know, once like a bird in prison, I derive no freedom from my sorrow I felt. But then Jesus came and listened to me and praise, glory to God. He set me free. And we sing that
And you
song.
would sing that song.
He set me free.
Set me free, oh, he set me free. He broke the bars of prison for
Listen
me.
for me.
I'm
I'm glorified, my Jesus to see.
Oh, glory to God, he set me
Set
free.
me free.
But the thing about it, the irony, Dale, is we're singing that in bondage and singing about,
And not knowing it.
because we're singing about
Yes.
salvation when I got saved. So that part of it, glory to God, I'm free now, I'm no longer a sinner. I am saved and sanctified and Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized, Jesus on my mind, and I'm running for my life. And so when we're thinking about that, you might be thinking of that when, on the other hand, you're in bondage. I mean, how ironic is that?
Yes, I agree. That I want to jump in here because I've been thinking about this since you brought up at the beginning, Patricia, about that list and the number of things that that can really be used as tools when people are coming out of childhood into adulthood. And people are generally, I think, more aware of their vulnerabilities and the woundedness coming out of their families than of their strengths and the things that are going to really set them on a right path. And so that's what makes them so vulnerable to the cults, is because that woundedness, it can be pretty easy for all that love bombing to jump in and save the day. And this is the one to follow here. Because
If you're starving,
you're starving, they're giving you what you've starved for. And it just, but you don't see the deception in it. It's a getting numbers thing rather than a really caring about you thing.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And somehow you got to get to the really caring about people, or it's just a game, and it's a lot of deception.
I was watching a program many years ago where this guy was showing the TV camera people, the documentary makers, how he picked his victims. And he was talking about how he picked a certain person to rob or rape or whatever. And so he would just stand there and watch people go by, and he would say, no, no, no. And they would say, well, like, how do you know? He said, well, she's got spunk. She would stand up to me.
There you go.
This was faster than I am, and she'll run, and he, no. And then he'll say, yes. Why'd you say yes about that one? He said, she's going to fold. She'll just fold.
Yeah.
So they're looking for weaknesses.
It's like wolves. It's like predators.
Yeah.
It's not just grooming. It's actual predatory behavior, and they know who is vulnerable. They can spot them. They can sniff them out.
Yeah.
The minute that they meet them, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. People who are vulnerable.
So they're actually picking out the vulnerable and abusing them and victimizing them because it's easier, which if you're a lion is smart, because you don't want to try to take down the big bull. You want to grab the calf when mama's not looking. You pick the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
You pick the sick one, the slow one, the short one, the young one, the one that's stuck, but in the human world, that's the worst kind of immoral human behavior, when you are preying on the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Which is what cults do.
Yeah.
And which is what happened to a lot of people that we know, and to some degree, probably all of us.
It's what bullies do.
Bert, you said something earlier that really resonated with me about seminaries teaching pastors to be, and when you think about looking at pastors, they do latch onto the vulnerable in their churches. I mean, it's more than just an ego kick. It's a position of power, and they exploit that. And that's taught. I mean, that's actually taught, where it may not be in a sense of somebody standing in a classroom teaching, but the idea is being presented how you minister in churches. And it's a struggle for some churches with pastors because they abuse that power and take advantage of people. So the cult that you're talking about is not so much the cult, such as big church on the corner, mega church. It could be your pastor in the pulpit doing multiple things, like Patricia said, that you don't even realize it's going on, but it's happening.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes cult-like behavior.
Yeah. And then they're slick with it. It's like
Slick.
Yeah, it's slick really. It's like
Absolutely.
You don't come with all 12 at once, because it'll be like, well, duh, something's wrong. What's happening here? slowly by slowly, one at a time, and then we implement something else, and then maybe next month we'll add this, and then they get you.
That's the grooming
There's
Gene
a
was talking about.
strategy. Yes,
Grooming.
yes, they're very skilled in this.
How many of my friends in the ministry have bragged to me over the years of stacking certain committees in the church with people that will agree with them or support them almost blindly? It happens. It just happens. And that's just as cult-like as make a church on the corner preaching what they preach.
I hate to admit it, but I've heard a couple of pastors brag about the church loved them so much they got him a motorcycle, or they got him a whole new closet full of suits, or they helped him get a house or something. I've heard that rarely, but from time to time.
Mhm.
Well, they bought my dad cars for his anniversary.
Okay.
He's born on the Colt. How dare you?
Okay.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my God.
Please.
No, but so I think that was my initial point, though. There are times when you might be a part of something, one or two of those things that may not necessarily, but I do agree with Jean also that one of those can be so huge that you don't need the others. So I think it can go either way. I think, we're all making the same point here.
Yep, you're right.
Mhm.
I've been pondering Heather's comment, and it goes back to something I think we've talked about before, Bert, is the church is an organic institution, and it is a relational, for better for worse, for richer for poorer, in sickness and in health. It's a relational and organic institution, and there are healthy ones and there are unhealthy ones.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of degree.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're looking for a church, I think that whether you're doing it consciously or not, if you're smart and you've been burned, you're looking for a church that's exhibiting fewer of these cult-like attributes, behaviors,
Mhm.
clues, red flags, and going the opposite direction. You're looking for freedom and honesty and sincerity, and nobody's trying to use me or hurt me or take advantage of me, but is helping me, and I feel safe enough to actually
Yeah.
participate and be myself.
Yeah.
Because most people are afraid they become a pseudo self in order to protect themselves in certain
Mhm.
environments, especially in a cult-like environment. You have a mask that you put on, but if you're moving into a place where you can actually sort of take that mask off and be your real self and ask any question you want to, you're feeling safe enough to do that, then you're probably not in a cult.
Yeah. I agree. I think too, the cult it's more about desperation, or could be as a result of desperation, because if I've been hurt by someone and you're saying to me, you're gonna love me and you're gonna treat me nice and I'm gonna buy you stuff, and I've been hurt and didn't have anything all my life, why wouldn't I run into your arms and accept that? I think the same thing with the church. If you've been hurt down the street and this church is saying, come on over here with us. Oh, we love our people and we do this and we will do this for you. And
Just don't look at the man behind the curtain. Pay no attention.
Right.
yeah, so desperation, it goes back to the vulnerability again. If you're vulnerable enough, you can get caught very
Yeah.
easily. Not strong enough or to be on your own to say, no, that doesn't smell right over there. I
Need
think
to
I'm
be
gonna stay right.
skeptical
Yes,
until
yes,
the
have your own
trust
mind.
until the trust proves real and
Yes.
is not a part of one of these schemes.
Yeah, and just thinking for yourself.
Do you think that our little conversation tonight, which is being recorded, and it's going to be on several different Facebook channels, and it's going to be on my YouTube channel, and lots of people are going to watch it, maybe not hundreds, but a lot of people are going to watch it. Do you think that this conversation could help anyone heal or turn a corner or gain a
Absolutely.
new understanding, or maybe get enough courage to kind of get out of the messy church they're in? you think we're making a difference?
I know we are. I think if they
I
watch
guess
long
they-
enough, yeah, I mean, sorry, Dale, I think, lost my thought, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dale, I'll jump in.
Go ahead, Dale. She'll remember.
Mhm.
I think that if we offer the concept, because I don't see any grace in that list you've got.
Mm-mm.
If you're in a position where you're not receiving grace or even offered grace, then you're in the wrong place, because to me, the gospel is full of grace and love and truth. And when you get into the list of cults, it's full of legalism and authoritarianism, and there's no grace. I mean, no matter what you do, you don't find grace in that list. And I think that if you're trapped in a place like that, and I use the word trapped, but I think people are, if it's not being offered grace, then they need to really look at this situation and say, there's more than where I am, something more than where I can be. And grace is a big part of that.
So if you're feeling, in your church, if you're feeling pressure more than you're feeling invitation,
Yeah.
if you're feeling fear more than you're feeling confidence and faith, if you're feeling trapped more than you're feeling liberated and free, if you're feeling threatened rather than feeling safe enough, then maybe here's your sign.
Mm. I think that's what he was saying. Yeah. But back to your question, Bert, I think it's how it's presented. People will tend to listen and be open to a change of heart if they feel that it's being presented in a way where you're not ridiculing or judging. Because remember, I feel this is right for me. This is the way. My pastor is the savior. So if you come in any way sounds like you're ridiculing or going against, people probably will not hear this conversation. But I think how it's presented, if they hear it and if it's coming in from a place of love and care, I think people will hear it for sure and consider listening to more or have other questions about that. Get really curious about it. It's like when I first met you and went to Owl Rock and I heard this gospel for the first time. I'm like, what in the world is this nonsense? I've never heard anything like it. And I got really curious. I went back again.
Oops, he's preaching the Bible.
And
Oops.
I mean, we've often talked about, the thousands of conversations that we've had
Oh, for sure.
and theology discussions. When people dated and went to the movies, we talked theology because I couldn't get through. I couldn't understand where he was coming from. I never heard this stuff before, but the way Bert preached it, it was never judgmental. He would always leave it up to you. He never tell you need to. He hates imperatives. So I had to learn that because I used a lot of them. You have to, you ought to, you
must.
you
should.
you should. That's what Jesus said.
You gotta.
You gotta do
You
it.
gots to do it.
I tell you though, that can be enticing to some people though.
Yes, they want to be told, yes.
Because as much as we're talking about freedom here, a lot of
Yes.
times what people really need to feel loved and cared for is some kind of structure to it. Otherwise, too much freedom just feels like chaos and craziness.
Yes, and like we don't have any grounding. You don't believe anything. You
Yeah.
all over the place. I've heard that too. But I
Mhm.
think so people like to be told what to do, Mike, in some context, it's just
Absolutely.
like, no, yeah, it's no, you are my pastor. I expect you to tell me what to do. I need you to tell me what the Bible says, what does Jesus said. Is this right or wrong?
Which means
Yeah.
we're the pastors that do that are enabling their dependency
Yeah,
to continue to be childlike in their faith
yeah.
and not honor their own responsibility
Mhm.
to work out their own salvation on their own time and on their own dime. I mean, everybody has to work on this stuff themselves,
Mhm.
but pastors will, because they like to be needed,
Mm.
they have that need to be needed.
Mhm.
So they like dependent people around them who like to be told what to do,
I look to you.
because it's sort of like a head trip,
Yeah.
Get off on that head trip. These people need me. I'm the man. What are you singing?
Whitney Houston in my head.
Why are you singing Whitney Houston?
I look to you. So it's
I
like,
look to you.
yeah, you're the master. You're the
You did
pastor.
all
You're it.
all the right answers. Tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do.
So now I don't have to do it. I got Big Daddy in the pulpit telling me what to do, or Big Mama.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So I don't have to think for
That's
myself.
that's the creation of a dysfunctional, dependent
yes,
family system.
and it's very
Yep.
it's a lazy.
It's
way of-
lazy.
Well, yeah, lazy that you don't want to think for yourself now. Someone's thinking for you. I mean, come on.
That's a big word.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
But
lazy.
if you're in a position of authority and if you're just dealing with people because of your own ego, this is me for myself. I can say to somebody, I don't have all the answers. I don't know. And that's okay, because I don't have all the answers. And when I run into somebody who has all the answers, they don't have any answers hardly. And when you talk about pastors, egos are there. Most pastors are on a trip with, I'm right, you're wrong. Let me tell you how right I am. And that's not how I operated. I don't see this panel. I don't think that's how you operate either. I think that we're honest enough to say, I don't have all the answers, but I'll help you with looking for them.
One of the things that I've noticed about that goes along with this, Dale, is that the pastors who are on TV, the really most famous ones, typically do not do Bible studies because they really don't know much about the Bible. What they're good at is the gift of gab and manipulation. They're really good in front of the camera. They're just charismatic. They got this gift of bringing people in and liking them, and wanting to be liked. But they're not there. If you watch their sermons really aren't biblical and don't even sometimes mention the Bible at all. And they don't do Bible study because they don't know anything about the Bible.
You need to learn how to hoop.
I can hoop with the best of them. I said, Lord. Ha!
Bert. That is a terrible rendition of a good Southern preacher. You have to say, it's got to be like this.
Oh my God.
That was better. He actually, that was a lot better than me.
Jen, let me hear you.
I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit.
That's called a
And
burp.
Bert, something else about the preachers that don't, that are the cult leaders, in my opinion, that don't do Bible studies. They do Bible, but it's only the verses that support what they're going to be telling you.
Good point.
That's all they know is what they use to coerce you with the word. They don't
They're
teach you.
memorized in advance.
And if you listen to them, they say the same thing every time, using the same scripture every time.
Yeah.
It's brainwashing.
Yeah, it's not exegesis at all.
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
This has been wonderful and I hope helpful to you folks who are watching the recording, to those of you who are watching live
Oh, we're out of time.
on Zoom and on Facebook.
Anybody put in any comments on Facebook?
No. So I don't see any comments on Facebook. But what will happen is when we end this video, it'll show that there were 20 people there. So they're lurking. And also remember, I send it over to the Bert Gary channel on YouTube, where we've been getting a lot more people watching. That's sort of caught on now. We have, between 30 and 100 watching it over there, in addition to whoever's watching it on Facebook. So we're reaching people. I think, I hope that the conversations that we have are going to be meaningful to them. They're meaningful to me. But where else do I get to do this?
Yeah.
Just really talk to people about their experiences, where they are, what's happening in the church and what we're concerned about. Shoot, I mean, you can't buy this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's been
And what I appreciate is all of your willingness on the panel to share and be here and be yourself and ask your questions and state your opinions and be vulnerable. It really is wonderful to watch that happen, as opposed to what we see on the TV so often, which is, one person up there telling everybody what to think.
Mhm.
I
Heather, it was
appreciate
really
all
good
the
hearing-
comments tonight.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, Heather, it was really good hearing your voice tonight.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you. And to
Thank you, Heather.
everybody, all the regulars.
And Heather's background is making me want to kind of meditate,
Right?
because she's got that thing going on back there. And my background is the Jezreel Valley, by the way. I'm standing on the tell of Jezreel, where Jezebel was killed by her own servants, being thrown out the window.
Well, I'm coming to see Jezebel.
You coming to see Jezebel?
Where is she?
There she is.
Well, I like where Jezebel
Look at those
is.
nails. Look at those
And
nails.
Mine is from Wadi Rum.
Ah, cool.
Oh, that's Wadi Rum. Okay, yeah. I didn't quite see the orange, but now I do. Yeah. They filmed a lot of those Martian movies in the Wadi Rum because of that orange.
They're filming the second part of Dune there right now.
I saw a lot of Wadi Rum in Dune.
Yeah, you said that when we watched it.
It
yeah.
looked very Wadi Rum. Yeah,
Great
this is
movie too.
Wadi
Yeah.
Rum is in Jordan, sort of near Eilat, on and Aqaba on the Red Sea. It's a beautiful desert. It's an amazing place to go. Hope you can go sometime.
Mike's in my background are the walls of our houses.
Yeah, but you have 45-foot ceilings too.
18,
Sure.
18.
And Mike is in the only room he owns that he ever goes to. It's like he said, this is the only room he needs. This is my
Right.
kitchen.
Sanctuary.
All
This is my
around.
kitchen, my den, my living room, my office.
I was told it was the sun-room when I got here, and I thought, I'll spend some time here.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, son,
Uh-huh.
Well, Kia, how you doing? You out there somewhere?
Cool.
You were quiet tonight, but I know you're always listening.
Well, I had some things to say, but I didn't know if it was going to change the perspective of things in what our discussion was about tonight. I think just really quick, there's a definitive line in the identification of being called a cult and then also being called a gang. Because a lot of these things on the list, if you look at them, the sex exploitation, the threatening, the isolation, these are also relative to gang orientation.
Yep.
And, with some of the ones that you may identify as being a cult, it's really not a cult. It's really a gang of people. I mean, you can look at racism the same way. These were individuals in not necessarily a cult, but a gang. And it had the same premise and the same concepts.
Mhm.
And they become the family of the new members.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have that relationship because there's something that is relatable. Even when you look at your gangs or your cults, there's some type of identifying relative connection to something someone said or something someone did. When you look at the sexual exploitation of some of the women who get caught up in these gangs, they were promised so many things. Then they are isolated, and then they're threatened, and then they don't know how to get out. So they don't know. You have that lack of knowledge and knowing how to move forward in that next step. And I think some of our panel discussions may enlighten somebody on how.
That's really interesting. I'm wondering about the overlap
Mhm.
of cult and gang now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Just
it
like we
goes
mentioned
back to
bullies.
relationships too, and wanting the sense of belonging,
Absolutely.
Yes.
wanting to belong.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you've got church, gang, even politics, political situations.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's
I
true.
mean,
Mhm.
It's impregnated our whole culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of tribal or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Maybe we should look at this some more. I mean, what's the difference between a tribe, a gang, an organized crime family,
And abusive relationships.
abusive relationships and cults. I mean, they're because some of the controlling behaviors overlap.
There's a thread
Yes.
that runs with all of them. All has to do with control.
But I tell you what, if it smells like control, no matter what you call it, no matter what you're in, it's not healthy for you to be there.
Right.
If it smells like pressure and pressure to do something or be something, if you're smelling shame and guilt and threat and fear, you're in the wrong place.
That's not fertile soil for growth.
No.
If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
Uh-huh.
then it's probably a duck.
Yeah, if it walks and talks and quacks like a duck, you're probably in trouble.
I also think you need to say that if you're in that situation, you need to find a safe way to get out of that situation.
Yeah,
I think what we're saying tonight is there are safe ways.
yeah,
If someone around you can be a part of that safety net,
yeah.
find them.
I think that's a really good point, Dale, because most people need help to get out. They can't do it by themselves. And it's almost like a woman who's being abused and
They need
she has
support.
to move. She needs support, someone to change her name.
A safe place to go.
Yeah.
A way not to be starved into going back.
Yeah, feeling forced that I have to. Yeah.
Running out of money and then forced to go back and stay with the guy who was beating you.
So what we're saying can be easily said, but it's a challenge to get there.
Yeah.
For
And it takes time, it's this
Oh, it does.
rewiring that has to take place over and over and over.
So there
Yeah.
needs to be find the network that's around you, because there are networks. I mean, I hear
Yeah.
that there are networks out there. You don't have to be trapped and feel like you're trapped forever. There are ways to get beyond where you are.
Yeah.
Yep, and if you're really, really in trouble, call Mike. Call Mike. It's 1-800. Mike will help you.
Just think about
Thanks,
this,
Bert.
Bert. If you've got your YouTube channel and you've got Facebook, you might see somebody pop up, just say, help.
We might. I haven't seen it yet, but we might. And I do try to respond to anybody who says anything.
My point is, you can be an avenue for somebody to say help.
For sure.
Yeah.
I hope y'all have a wonderful evening. We've run over time.
Good
Ever
to
have
see
enough
you
time?
all. Hey, Becky.
We have the greatest panel ever. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Gloria's gone now, but thank you, Gloria. And thank you, Kia, and of course, Jean and Heather, Dale, Patricia, as always, and Mike. Appreciate y'all very much, and have a blessed evening.
Bye, Becky.
Take care, everybody. Happy 4th.